Okay, so I'd like to call to order the May 28th Infrastructure Committee meeting. The first order of business is to approve the minutes from April. So here now.
Move to approve the minutes from April.
Second. All in favor? We did make the one correction. Oh, you were the vice chair.
Yes.
Okay. Borough projects. So the first project on our list is the roof reinforcement project at 80 Windsor, which I guess is making good progress, and hopefully there will be no new unforeseen conditions uncovered in the last 2 weeks.
And so I added to the meeting packet for today's meeting, one of the more extensive project updates that we have received up to this point. We are approximately 75% complete with the project. The thing that, if you noticed, highlighted on that report was that there are steel plates that go on top of each of the posts. They are experiencing manufacturing delays, 7 to 10 days building. So I have not coordinated with the project engineer on what the consultant or the constructor, contractors, there's the word, the contractors are going to be doing to fill their time between those 7 and 10 days, because it's to the point where we actually need those steel plates for the tops of the posts.
So that could affect the completion date?
It could, maybe by a week. So we're talking weeks, not months.
Anything else of note besides that?
No, we have our every other week we have a project status meeting on site, and it's just impressive to see the work and how much surgery they've been doing to really minimize the amount of damage for this project. So it's moving right along. And you'll see also, it's wild on how the posts are plumb and how far the wall goes away from it the further you get towards the ceiling. It's a pretty significant gap at the top. So I say that to say thank you to council for approving this project, because it was needed.
So you would say like as conditions uncovered demonstrated we don't need to do this project at this time.
Yes, and to update publicly, I was notified last week by DCED that the $250,000 that the borough received for the local share account grant, it was approved by the Commonwealth Funding Authority that an update to the project scope can include this roof reinforcement project at 80 Windsor Avenue. So we will be able to apply that $250,000 towards the $500,000 total cost.
It's great news.
It is great news.
Okay. We're just somewhat communicating about another meeting. We're waiting until the project is complete before deciding what to do about new painting.
Thank you. Yeah. So we've separated that project, as you've heard me say previously. There's some interest from the Girl Scouts who occupy the West Wing. There's some interest from the library board for contributing some money to do some other improvements while the rooms are currently vacated and protected. The Girl Scouts are asking to replace the flooring, and they have been fundraising for that, and it looks as though they will be in a position to replace the flooring soon after the project is completed. And the Narberth Industrial Development Authority is also partnering with the Girl Scouts and the library to match a portion of their funds for the finishing projects. Library is also considering repainting and changing some colors. Not changing colors, just repainting, freshening it up. And I haven't seen any of those specifics as of yet. So those specifics will be coming. The closer we get to project completion, the more we'll know what needs to be done from a finishing standpoint.
So is it fair to say that fundraising is in in progress to make cosmetic repairs after the project is complete?
Yes.
The flooring, though, are you aware of the nature of the, like, are you going to use a different material or something? Or you
Good
wanna-
question.
I don't, what kind of floor is in there now? Is it a,
Vinyl tile,
okay.
we'll call it.
All right. So we're not losing anything special?
No,
Okay.
no, nothing special. Look like it, my guess would be maybe mid-50s.
When it went in or the cost?
When it went in, it looks like mid-50s era floor. And if you recall, the Girl Scouts worked with the borough a year or two ago to repaint that room. So it was recently repainted, and so the last thing for them to do was the floor, and they're also discussing details with a contractor to refinish, do something with all of the cabinetry in there to make it more useful, easier to interact with.
But how would that work in the sense?
Usually you open the door.
No, I get that part. How would that work? Like if we had additional work, it could be done as a change order to this project funded by other things, or we need to start another
We're gonna
project?
separate it.
But then does that mean you need to bid it then?
It depends on the amount that we're talking about. If it's over 22.6, then yes, you need to publicly bid it. If it's 22.6 or below, no, we don't. Hence why we try to separate projects
Yeah.
to smaller projects,
Well,
so we can come in,
yeah, sure.
it's a technique.
Okay, good. Norworth Avenue Bridge. So we have Jesse Gormley from Panoni with us today, who wrote a very nice, sort of publicly facing summary of where we stand on the bridge that got published in the Norworth Flash and on various Facebook groups last week. And so we appreciate that, but it would be good if you could just give us maybe a summary of what you said there, and then we could ask whatever questions we might have.
Absolutely. And I have a copy of it here in front of me just to make sure I hit all the important points. Just wanted to note that the project has been continuing on a couple fronts. First, in terms of the bridge design, we've got that in front of the state right now and moving through final reviews.
When you say
Anticipating
state, you mean?
PennDOT specifically, yeah. The local district is reviewing the bridge design and anticipating that we should have that all finalized and signed off on within the next 1 to 2 months. Meanwhile, the other major fronts of the project are utility coordination as well as coordination with Amtrak. On the utility front, I think that's been progressing well, working through final agreements with them and approvals, anticipating we should have that process wrapped up maybe within, let me make sure I estimated this right. Yeah, 2 to 3 months. We're likely on that 3-month end. And then the remaining front is Amtrak in coordination with them, which for projects of this type, is a time-intensive process, as I think we've all learned so far. We've been in touch with them again. Sometimes that's difficult to maintain their attention. We have it right now, we've been trying to hold it. Still, this will be the most time-consuming remaining piece of the puzzle. The borough needs to reach a final agreement with them, which we are in coordination on right now. We also need to ultimately get on Amtrak's schedule, and we are at their mercy for that. The good news is both PennDOT and representatives from Senator Casey's office are engaged in our routine calls. They're aware of the status of the project and they're on board to help get through that process with Amtrak. Feeling good about the momentum with it right now. Be happy to answer any questions.
So are there other, those are the big 3 things, the PennDOT review, the utility coordination. Is it all the utilities or there's one in particular that we're holding up on? Or?
To get clearance through PennDOT for the project, we have to get a certain number of forms from all the utilities potentially affected in the area.
Yeah.
The 3 big ones for this project were Pico Electric and Pico Gas, so Pico on 2 fronts, as well as Comcast, and they're key because they're also being carried on the bridge over Amtrak. So as part of our process with them, we have to get their approval on the design, We also have to come to an agreement with them, which actually the borough reaches the agreement with them for reimbursement. And then we have to, oh geez, I lost the last piece, I apologize. Agreement, clearance, yeah, all the paperwork goes back into PennDOT. They give the thumbs up on it, and we're free to move forward. There's another track here, which is the Public Utility Commission, Pennsylvania Public Utility Commission.
Yeah.
Really, Amtrak is the controlling piece of that, but we need to have all of the utilities go ahead of time. Once the bridge is approved by PennDOT, we will do a final filing with them. We have to distribute the plans to all the utilities. They will have it totals to a 50-day window to provide comment. It's really a 30-day comment period and then a 20-day approval period. Based on our coordination with the contact, we're expecting that to go pretty smoothly.
So that's once the PennDOT review is done.
Correct.
Okay. And so is there any, oh, I see, but the utility, does the utility coordination need to be completed before that happens? Because it looks like the PennDOT approval might come before the utility coordination.
Are you looking at the schedule right now?
I'm just looking at what you just said.
There are multiple PennDOT approvals yet to occur on the project.
Right.
The one I was speaking to initially is the structural design of the bridge itself.
Right.
That piece of it I'm anticipating will be within a month or two. Once we get that, we need to obtain the utility clearance, which involves all the documents that I was just speaking about. We also need to obtain the railroad clearance, which means a standing agreement with Amtrak. We're on their schedule. All the I's are dotted, T's are crossed.
Yeah.
Once we have all of those, we do a final submission to PennDOT with all of the approved documentation.
Right.
That kickstarts the process of getting everything online, getting it set up to bid publicly. We have a several-week advertisement window. Contractors can ask questions related to the contract. We answer them, and then ultimately, several weeks later, they'll submit bids, and the project will be let where they open them all simultaneously, and we look at the qualifications for all the contractors to make a determination.
So, and then I will let you guys ask your questions if you have any. What is the biggest, like, of all these things, which is the one that, like, is the, where the schedule is, more likely to slip than others?
Right now, it's all hinging on railroad clearance. Amtrak.
But they can't really do anything right now except for, I guess, approve some of these funding arrangements. Is there anything that we're waiting for Amtrak on right now?
The most critical piece is going to be getting on their schedule. Talking with colleagues and other firms that have worked on projects over Amtrak, it's kind of anybody's guess on how quickly they'll be able to move forward with that. My understanding is they will want the executed contract in hand, then they will look at their schedule, which involves assessing all the other projects going on over the Harrisburg line. They know they have a couple standing. Ultimately, we'll get a spot on their schedule,
Right.
but the status of the other projects will affect how far out that actual.
But we can't
schedule
even
is.
ask them to put us in the schedule because we're not done with the other parts. Is that accurate?
We have discussed it with them. They know that getting on their schedule is an outstanding piece for us.
Right.
They have it's their third-party resource form that we
Right.
fill out, all the information we have, but there are slots on there for approval dates that we haven't had yet.
Right, so like they can't
Yes.
execute that.
Correct.
And that's their construction schedule?
Yes.
Does the construction schedule have to do with coordinating trains, passing underneath, and that kind of thing, just to make sure is
Absolutely.
that pretty much it, their construction schedule, or what else do they coordinate in terms of their construction schedule?
They know of events or other planned outages that they have.
Okay.
They know what other construction work is being done on the line, especially for overhead bridges like this. They say they can only support one going on at a time. And because a lot of the work is limited to nighttime work to avoid outages during service hours, those construction windows run long.
And that's one at a time on an entire line, on
their Harrisburg line.
Okay.
So pretty much our neck of the woods out to Harrisburg.
I mean, the lines are pretty long, so.
But you don't know the other projects, I guess, on this one.
We have limited information on that. That information is all publicly available, but I don't have it on me here.
I don't know if this is something to track per se, but at a previous meeting, I noticed, or I made note of the earliest possible start date, which at one point was December 9th. And is that kind of still the earliest possible start date, or is that, I'm just looking for things that sort of slip that earliest possible start date into the future, because it's just a marker for me about, you know.
Yeah, that, I'm sorry to report that we've eclipsed that date. And again, it is primarily controlled by our coordination with Amtrak. I think on paper right now, we had it as soonest was probably a March timeframe. And I'll clarify that that is the day that we could release or open all the bids that were received. There's typically a couple month window after that before a contractor would be given notice to proceed, called a 3-month window. So that would really take us into June right now. That assumes everything coming together at the railroad within our best guess window. That has not always proven to be the case, but we're trying to keep on top of it, like I said, and push it to be as accelerated as we can.
Okay.
Are they going to let us get on their schedule if we haven't figured out the down payment question yet, or is that something where we can get on the schedule and then continue that conversation with them?
The down payment is tied to the construction agreement that the borough will sign. I think that component of it will need to be worked out before the agreement is signed.
Okay.
We'll continue to try to get on the schedule, but they're not going to put us on the schedule until they know or have more confidence in when this project is going to be bid. So, that's it.
And as an update, we did receive word from Amtrak late last week about that construction agreement. And as of this morning, the borough solicitor has reviewed all of the documents and he doesn't have any substantive changes to it. Therefore, the construction agreement is good to go from the borough's perspective. I'm happy to report that Amtrak included a reduction in the down payment amount from 30% down to 10%. It still would mean the borough would have to front about $735,000 to get this project moving. That is a down payment. That does not, we have to front the money. So we'll be paying interest on that because we don't have that in the borough funds. We need to have some sort of funding mechanism, which we would be paying interest on. We would get that money back at the end of the project, especially as it relates to funding of the project, which is 80-15-5 currently. The borough's on the hook for 5%. So I have questions that Jesse and I are going to talk about in our next call, coordination call, about how the down payment works with the reimbursement. I read through the agreement itself and it's clear as mud to me. And so I just want to see, like, nuts and bolts. I'm really interested in how much is this truly going to cost the borough and when. Because that's, it's inconvenient to have a bridge closed, infrastructure that needs to be repaired, but financially speaking, that's my bread and butter. So I want to make sure that I know what that true cost is going to be, when, and how. I feel like we're getting close to that, and that's something that we're going to be discussing in the next coordination meetings about what does this mean for that down payment.
Yeah.
So maybe be creative in, maybe not, I'm not gonna, no. Yes, that's awesome. I don't want to say too, I got a couple ideas. They all are. And I don't want to go and say anything publicly yet without having to kick the tires on a couple of options I was thinking about.
Makes sense. And then my only follow-up question was and you may have answered this already, when you said it was clear as mud, but I guess like normally if we take out debt and then we pay interest on it and we get reimbursed, is the reimbursement just the original rate? There's no reimbursement for the interest?
These are the details that I'm hoping to work out.
Okay.
I have those same questions. I don't know. It's like that timing. If let's say we, just for an example, let's say we have a bond issuance for this down payment, because that's the level of borrowing that we would need to have. you know, we'd be paying static interest on that year over year for a big chunk, but we won't get that money back for another 3 to 4 years. We've paid all of that interest. My guess is that it's not gonna include any interest paid, because the onus is on the borough to absorb those costs. That's the answer I don't have yet.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay. Great, okay, and then just moving forward, I think we're gonna ask them to update the, that, sort of more digestible version of the status once a month. Okay, theoretically in the flash timed after the meetings, which are now every 2 weeks, is that?
Yeah, the first and third Tuesdays, twice a month.
Okay, so we're not gonna update it like every time they meet, but like every other time they meet.
There just isn't enough material to update it meaningfully every week. It's like a whole bunch of hurry up and wait. Yes, a lot is happening. People are looking at things, but there's nothing that we can publicly update.
And the other thing is that like Jesse had offered to come to these meetings, but now with the implementation of this update, we'll play that by ear.
You've always got the opportunity, if it gets to the point, maybe Zoom call or every other week, depending upon what's happening with the project.
Okay, so any other comments on that?
I would, if you don't mind,
Please.
I just want to continue to reiterate this. What is the typical time frame for this level project to be complete from soup to nuts?
We are aware of several projects over the line. Some of our neighbors here who had project durations 20 to 30 years to complete similar projects. Should note that Pinoni is designing the bridge. On our twice a month status calls, we have 2 PennDOT consultant PMs who are responsible for local bridge delivery projects in the area. They've dealt with several of these. They're working on another one for Parksburg down the line right now. That one is at a 30-year clock currently. So unfortunately, the nature of these projects over rail is a much longer duration than I think typical expectation.
Thank you. How many bridges do we have along the Harrisburg line?
We didn't know.
That's a great question, and I do not have the answer.
I just want to do that times 20.
Yeah. And so I also coordinated with Lower Marion Township a couple of months ago and asked, because they recently completed a bridge, and they were on the 15-year timeline for that, so that was way ahead of schedule. So, this bridge, as of right now, since we made the announcement, we're at year 9. Year 9. 2015, Senator Casey was up on the bridge. Bridge is going to be done next year.
That's when it started, right? That's when the borough really started planning the replacement of the bridge, right?
2015.
I think that's probably the issue is other communities anticipated that the bridge would need to be replaced in 15 years, so they got the process started much sooner.
Yeah.
So like it's not taking, we're actually going at the right pace. It's just that maybe if we had started it sooner, then we wouldn't have had to close the bridge for such an extended period of time.
There was a bridge committee of the borough in 2010. I attended those meetings. Those were when they reviewed the design, the architectural design of the bridge. Heidi Boys was on 2010. So, who else? Serge Ghosh was on that committee, and Heidi, and I just attended them as a civic association person. That seemed to me to be the time where they really, there was a vision for the replacement of the bridge. There were renderings, even at that point.
2010.
2010, yep.
But did that just include like visioning, or did that include any conversations with like PennDOT?
There was actual design. What are the architects' names? There were
VSBA.
Yeah. They even back then they had drawings and elevations from the SPA in 2010. And I think they remember because they appropriated additional money from industrial development for additional brickwork or something like that, something beyond just the basic design of the bridge. 2010.
Okay. So we're year 14.
Okay. I'm not saying it's bad, it's still. Yeah.
Okay, 9 to 14 years.
Yeah.
It's still, we're still on track, pun intended. So thanks for bringing up VSBA. Also, there is the other element of this, is the architectural details of the mural that council approved in my absence over the past 2 years. VSBA is close to having a finalized version that they're going to be presenting to all of council before they say it's done, based upon the feedback that was provided to them during the last council meeting, a year and a half, 2 years ago. So that'll be forthcoming also, and that is also moving forward on time, on schedule.
Okay. We good?
That's all I can think of right now.
Okay.
Right now.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Chester.
Thank you.
You're welcome to stay with me.
It's no harm. I will take my absence, but thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay, this draft capital improvement plan. Matt.
Yes, thank you. So I will be meeting with most of council members this week in small group settings to get into the weeds with all things capital improvement plan. What will be included in these small group meetings is a review and methodology of developing the master inventory list, as well as the prioritization that council member Gaudini helped develop. Also included will be a first draft financial, I'm not going to call it an analysis, but a financial distribution of projects across the next 5 years. What I did, not to give spoilers, but I'm going to present it in 2 different ways. One, if we look at only those high priority projects, which results in not many projects, put that out over 5 years, depending upon, determined the capital fund balance that I've determined exceeds almost 100%, it exceeds the amount that we would need to budget by about $100,000. So we can do all high priority over the next 5 years. But those projects that are on the high priority list aren't necessarily the large capital improvements that one might think of when we talk about a capital improvement program. Significant improvements like the Elmwood Ave pedestrian bridge, stormwater bump outs, stormwater infrastructure improvements, major large-scale public improvements. I believe a true capital improvement plan should have some of those projects included in it. So the next tab you'll see and we'll discuss is both the high and medium-high prioritization projects. That gives us about $4.8 million worth of projects that need to be done over the next 5 years, or that have been prioritized. What it doesn't account for is any grant funds for any of those large-scale projects. Like the Elmwood Ave bridge, we're budgeting $400,000. That's a big chunk of money. I expect there would be some sort of grant assistance available for these larger scales. So it doesn't include any of those because those grants are unknown at this moment. What the capital improvement plan also does not include, as you've heard me say previously, is any park improvements, because we have the master park plan project going right now. We're going to wait till next year's update to integrate any park plan improvements into next year's capital improvement plan, nor does it include anything for 201 Sabine. 201 Sabine is its own thing. It should be its own capital plan itself. It would skew our capital plan. So those 2 things are excluded, as are our annual road paving program, since that's managed separately out of a separate fund. So I'm looking forward to discussing that in more detail in these small group meetings with all of council this week to get it to a point where I will be presenting to all of council and with some final recommendations and final document still on track for July, August consideration for approval. which segues into the 2025 budget discussions. Yes, it's coming already. What's important with the capital improvement plan is that, if you remember me discussing with you previously, I've identified projects that require fully engineered plans. It's important for us to identify those projects in the capital improvement plan because the borough will need to fund in the year leading up to it, general fund dollars to complete those plans, engineered plans. It shouldn't spend capital fund dollars on planning, for plans and designs. I have yet to coordinate. I know I asked Eric at one point about what the good estimate for engineered plans would be based upon the total cost of the capital project, but I can't remember. I don't know, Tony, if you know that off the top, right? So that's a number that I can budget for. I couldn't remember. I need to coordinate with Eric. So those are the key takeaways that I'll be discussing with council this week. I'm looking forward to getting this thing even closer to consideration for approval mid-year.
Sounds great. Okay, any questions? Okay. Okay, LED light fixture replacement of that 100 Conway and 80 Windsor.
So I'm going to let our Public Works Manager take the lead on this one since he's taken it upon himself to move this thing forward. We had an opportunity with 80 Windsor. We had to remove some of the light fixtures due to the construction, and Jeff was able to identify a PICO grant to get some light fixtures at an unbelievable rate. Without further ado, Jeff.
Thank you. Yeah, so we were very fortunate, to be made aware of a PICO grant that was out there to replace all of our old LED or our old fixtures within our shop, the firehouse, and both wings of the Legion and the Girl Scout program. Fortunately, they're all being installed by our borough staff. The contractors who are working on the roofing project are placing them back up at no cost because they had to take some down for the initial project. So we received close to $11,000 worth of LED fixtures for the whopping price of $0. So we took advantage of that. We completed replacement lighting in our Public Works shop. Next couple of weeks, we'll be dipping into the engine room where we park our fire trucks. Take care of that for them, and we dropped off the light fixtures to the contractors last week. So they're at the appropriate time frame to put them up.
That's excellent.
Thank you.
That's really useful. That's going to save on electricity too.
Yeah, that was just the upfront cost.
Yeah.
And then we're able to reduce the amount. So you look in, the Girl Scout wing had 5, so we'll put 5 back in, but the other wing had 12. So we're going to go from 12 to 5 because the output is so much greater.
Yeah. I wonder if the EAC is aware of this. I mean, this would come as good news there too. There's all financial savings, there's carbon savings as well.
That's good.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you to Jeff, and just to project to this committee and council members that this is the lens through which my staff are always looking. How can we make things more energy efficient? Taking that initiative, hearing your prioritization, EAC's, council's prioritization of ongoing commitment to climate, things having to do with climate and reducing your carbon footprint. So just, publicly, thank you, Jeff. We really appreciate it. And this was a pretty easy thing to do with a pretty good payoff. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
And I guess it was good to hear that you reduced the number, because a lot of people immediately complain that it's too bright. They probably won't complain about that in your shop or firehouse.
Our shop is great. It's how it should be.
Yeah, it's remarkable, because it was already too low.
It's amazing how much better you can see. I can't wait till like the winter time when it's 4 o'clock and it's dark outside and you can actually see everything. Just from a safety standpoint, not public safety, but from a worker's safety standpoint, traversing stairs, getting things up at on the upstairs side. It'd be good.
Well, in interior fixtures?
Yes.
I mean, none that illuminate the yard or anything like that?
So we replaced the ones that did the yard and the exterior of this building as well as the other building last year.
Okay, other projects worthy of mentioning in the borough, if nothing's happened, we don't have to every single one.
Yeah, I think there's a couple updates. The roads program has, we're getting close to getting that project started. We're in the process of obtaining the rest of the contract talks from the contractor. So they're hoping that they're 1-2 months out. But we'll have a better number once we get the rest of the documents from them. We'll be able to start scheduling pre-con meetings and getting that one started.
This is paving?
Yes, this is the paving on Haverford Ave and on Shirley Ave. I know that there's been talk about having the contractor also pave Shirley Circle, the private road that stems off of Shirley Ave. I sent Matt the information, or the contact information for the contractor. I don't know if you have any updates on.
No, I forwarded it to my source, Shirley Circle. We'll take it from there. One of our council members lives on Shirley Circle, so I forwarded it to him, and Mike Selmanson will be taking the lead, trying to coordinate amongst his neighbors.
But they would tack on to our contract?
No, couldn't tack on to our contract. That would create headaches through the state. They would get a preferred pricing. It would be a separate contract that the contractor would have with the residents of Shirley Circle.
Okay, other projects?
Just one last small thing. The Woodside Ave project that was completed back in October-ish, late summer, early fall last year. Jeff and his crew noticed that there was one of the sanitary pipes that the contractor had replaced had settled a little bit, so it wasn't in line with the existing sanitary sewer line. So that contractor's gonna be out there to repair that pipe this week. No additional cost to the borough. It'll all be part of the warranty period for the project as a whole. So other than that, that's all I've got.
Those are the main projects. Okay. Anything else you would add to that, John?
I just think it's important to note the firm that was awarded the paving contract is the same firm that did our last round of paving, borough migration. We enjoyed having them here. They did great work for us. And with speaking of the Woodside Avenue sanitary main, this is why we our pipes. Had we not received the increase in our funding for sewer maintenance and planning, this would have gone unseen for a number of years, and then it would have gone beyond the 2-year warranty time in the world. To take care of these.
Now, where do we stand on that one on 200 Marion, right?
That got done.
Oh, it's done?
Yep. Once we find, it's kind of a blessing and a curse, once we're made aware of an issue, we can't sit and dwell on it, so we need to.
Well, but it was also, you didn't have to, it was under the limit, so you needed to. Okay, and I guess I don't see any members of the public here, I don't suppose there are any online. Okay, can I guess, do you have any other things you want to add? Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All in favor? Good.